How's about now? Yeah, picked up the wrong microphone. That was weird. Thanks for letting me know, Judith and Beverly. How's it? Should be good now, right? I went to settings and I see the little thing going bloop 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 as I talk. So I think it's good. And hi, I was just supposed to say who all is here, and then you guys let me know. But yeah, I'm having a great summer. I hope you guys are having a great summer too. Um, I mean, I complained about this summer a lot. This is like one of the rainiest summers we've had in the last 10 years. It's like it's ridiculous how much rain we've had. Some of my plants outside, like my citrus trees don't like a lot of water, and rubber, not rubber, I mean, rubber doesn't care. My rubber trees, which I put outside in the summertime, also don't like a lot of water, and they're unhappy about it as well. So um, I'm a little bit bummed about all the rain. And hey, Danica and Jody. And I did say hi, Beverly and Judith. I'm not sure if you heard me though, because there wasn't anything to hear. Um, so yeah, I've been having a good summer though, and not next week, but the week after, we're going on our family vacation to New Hampshire, which is also something that I'm really excited about. Eva and I do a lot of hiking in the woods, and since Jill's health has gotten so much better, we're optimistic that we're going to get to have Jill come with us into the woods a little bit more often, which will be, I think, a lot of fun as well. So um, it gets a little tricky, right? Because in the summertime, who wants to spend a bunch of time in front of their computer? I mean, I guess it depends on where you live, right? If you live in the South, you're like, dear God, this is the time I don't go outside because it's 3-digit temperatures the entire time. Or if you're in not the United States, like 40 plus degrees Celsius all the time in the southern states. I feel like it's a thing that kind of like is easily forgotten. Is like Boston, where I live, is I believe a little bit south of Rome, latitude wise, and Florida and southern Texas are like level with North Africa. Um, so the United States is further south than a lot of times you'd think, which it is interesting, like how that works, because Canada, like most of the people in Canada, live um, no further north than the Alps. Um, but just because of the way that oceans move and temperatures flow and whatnot, Canada is significantly colder than, say, Germany. Um, oh, that's okay, Melissa. I forgive you. Oh no, Jody, that's terrible. So no HVAC at all? That's probably pretty warm for that. We don't have central air in our house. We survive on window units, but it actually only takes okay, it takes 5 window units to cool our house. We really need to get central air. I'm probably going to put in a mini split this fall, um, because, and I'm going to do it myself just because it's relatively easy to do. I'll get an electrician to do the wiring, but I'll do the installation of the mini split itself on my own. Oh, 90 degrees and humid, man. It's been most days here except for the last 3 days. I want to say that since the beginning of June, we've maybe had 7 days over 80, which is unheard of. Usually we've had stretches over 100 by now. It's crazy. Like we're all jamming on the weather here. Kristen says, "Oh hey Kristen, be 102 here in Dallas today." Yeah, that's warm. Yeah, we get 100% humidity in Boston, so when it gets hot, it's you swim through the air. Uh, yeah, it is really neat, isn't it, Danica? When you fly to Europe, you really totally see that. You're like, why are we arcing so far north? Like, oh, because Europe's way further north. Hot in Indiana, super humid. Yeah, I've heard that aircon in the UK is expensive. I wonder why, because here you can go to a supermarket and buy a window AC unit for $110. Is it just that there's not that many of them? Is it that there's like taxes on them because of the amount of electricity they consume? I've kind of become curious about that. I think air conditioning is going to become more common in Europe as the world gets warmer and warmer. Next year is going to possibly be one of the warmest years in the history of humans on this planet, um, because this year might end up being a super El Nino, and the year after a super El Nino is always ridiculously hot. And this year we've already had a couple of times where the average temperature across the world is the hottest it's ever been. So it's Time to get air conditioning in Europe. I mean, technically, insulation works the same both ways, Judith. It probably although you can make an argument like dark shingles and non-reflective wall surfaces, like a lot of brick houses and whatnot, are more likely to warm up the interior of the house. In North America, we just use insulation, which works both ways. And then if you live in sunnier areas, your houses are generally white, is what they do. And your roofs are hopefully light colored. Hey, honey. Hey, Jill. Germany for 7 years, Jody says. No central air, but you can get terribly hot for long. Yeah, that would be different too, right? If it only got hot for a few years. Yeah, we have a lot of brick and stone. Already did it at everyone, honey. Sorry. We have a lot of brick and stone here in Boston too. I mean, it's nothing compared to Europe, but Boston is now 400 years old, or like a couple of years shy of 400. No, it's over 400 years old now. We have buildings here that have been up for 400 years too. Although the oldest buildings around here are built with wood, and they're actually I'm a wood nerd, so back when people first came to where I live now, right now it's mostly elm and maple trees, and locusts, black locust trees, which are crazy how fast they grow. You can get like a 30-foot tree in 5 years. But the wood's not good for anything, a black locust, although it doesn't rot, so it does have some benefits that way. But it was a lot of pines here, and when a pine tree gets to be about 300 years old, the core of the pine tree becomes redonkulously hard. It's called heart pine. So it is hard, and it's called heart pine, and it's as hard as walnut or harder. So it's a really amazing wood, and it doesn't rot, and it's filled with basically pine sap, so it smells like turpentine a little bit, especially if you cut it. If you cut it, like I'll have pieces of heart pine wood that are hundreds of years old because I buy it to do woodworking with, and you'll cut it open and sap will come out, and it just smells so piney. It's so wild. But yes, they built the original houses out of heart pine around here, and there are no more heart pine trees. They don't exist. There are no pine trees that have heart pine because it has to get to be about 300 years old before it does that, and we cut them all down before they get that old. So there's your little tree lesson for today that no one was expecting. But yeah, Jill did mention one of the things I want to talk about today is Midjourney prompts in our class in August. And I also want to talk about like summer marketing and summer sales, because I feel like imagining a lot of people have probably seen sales dip. I work with a lot of authors, and as does my team. Like on an average week, we work with between 15 and 25 authors, and just from June 23rd, you see people's reads just go down, especially if you target an older audience, because the grandparents are now on child watching duties, and vacations are happening, and grandchildren are coming to visit grandparents and whatnot, and that does decrease reads. If your story markets more to younger people, you might actually see an increase in what you're getting at this time of year. And I think it's something sort of just to keep in mind. Like some people are like, oh my God, this is terrible. And KU rates are kind of low right now too. So it's a low reads time of year, and KU's low. So people are probably feeling the pinch. And what that means is you can do one of two things. You can sort of just wait it out, or you can think of alternate things you can do to boost things up in the meantime. I was curious what Andrew Scott Perry said. Vermont's rough, no road access, but what happened? Did you guys get one of those crazy storms that were coming through? I saw that. Oops, my computer just went to sleep. I have a very aggressive lock policy on my computer. It will lock after about 5 minutes of no input. And I guess recording video doesn't count as input. I do that actually sort of point along the line because I work with so many authors, and I have access to so many authors' Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts, and in some cases other systems as well, like their Shopify accounts and whatnot. So I have to be very, very security conscious with my machine. I'm actually considering getting one of those Bluetooth things, so when I move more than like 5 or 6 feet away from my computer, it just automatically locks. It'll only unlock while I'm nearby. So then I'll have to know my password and have the device to unlock the computer, which is much more secure way to do things. Yeah, that's awesome that you signed up for it, Kristen. So I'm going to segue into this class we're doing, and then I'll segue back into summer marketing. Yeah, we're doing a class. One of them is August 11th. I think the other one's August 18th. But there's a link in the description for this video, and I'll actually throw it in the comments as well. Just that's not the link. That is something else. Shoot, I don't have the link up. Maybe I can get Jill to do it. Get Jill to put the link in. 11th and 25th. So Friday the 11th and Friday, August 25th. And it is at 2 p.m. Eastern each time. And the first class is going to be about generating art with AI. And I'm going to get into a number of the major tools out there, how to train it, how to get it to make what you want, the different sort of ethical challenges that different tools have, and why they have they might have different ethical challenges. For example, like where they source their images and how are people being compensated for them and stuff like that. And so that everybody can have as much information as possible, make the decisions for themselves about what they feel they're comfortable with. I personally, and if you've come to my lunches with me before, you've heard me say this before. My personal stance on AI art is that AIs learn how to do art the same way that humans do, and moreover, some people claim that AIs are plagiarizing. And the interesting thing with that, I was actually talking with a friend of mine who's made his life is living off of art for the last 25 years. So we were having a chat about it. I said, like, how do you feel about it? Because I wanted to get his unvarnished opinion about how he felt about AI art. And he actually talked about an angle I'd never considered before. And he said that there's, the idea of plagiarism and copyright is based on, like, copying a thing and plagiarizing a thing. But he said, if you take 10,000 books and take one word from each of those 10,000 books, that doesn't actually match current concepts of plagiarism and copyright, which I thought was an interesting sort of like way to look at it. And he views it as a tool, the same as anything else. He's like, when I first started doing it, I was drawing with pencil and crayon, kind of thing. And then I got better physical tools, and then I got computers, and I was able to produce more art at a lower cost. And he was actually quite excited. He's like, now I can produce even more art at an even lower cost, and I can do things I would never have had the time to do before, like start off with have Midjourney draw something, and then he can enhance it in certain ways that he just wouldn't have had the time to do that, and then sell it at a price that someone could get it for afterward. So I thought that was a really interesting take in that. And he said that, back in the day, people used to say that because he used a tablet and did digital art, it wasn't art, and it wasn't real art and stuff like that. So I thought it was an interesting take. But the really interesting thing was this whole idea of if you take one brushstroke, if you copy a brushstroke from 1,000 different paintings, that's not plagiarism or copyright infringement. He had a much more advanced argument, a lot more detail he went into. I think she should get him to write it out for me or something, because it was pretty neat. But that's one of the things we'll talk about. I probably should get him. I'm going to reach out to him before this call, before we do the thing. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Vicky and Sarma. Oh, you're in the UK. Nice. So yeah, we're going to talk about, and the one I'm going to dig into the most is Midjourney, because Midjourney can make the most photorealistic images with the least work. There is another one out there called Stable Diffusion, and Stable Diffusion you actually run on your own computer. You do have to have certain hardware in your computer to do it, but you run it on your own computer, and then you can train it with your own images. So you could take a whole bunch of photographs of a building, for example, and then you could train it to draw that building from different angles, or in different lighting or something like that. And you can say you can give building a name like Building 97 or something like that. And you can be like, draw Building 97 at night with lightning in the background, and it would then do it. So there's some pretty neat stuff out there that's available. So we'll get into all that jazz, and then we're going to get into some of the new things you can do about how to make images bigger, how to get more consistent characters. So if you want to get the same character multiple times, and then also how to leverage some of the new tools in Photoshop, like generative fill in Photoshop, which can both add and remove things. You could do really wild stuff with generative fill. You can put your book cover in there and then remove all the text from your book cover. Now, depending on the license you have from your cover artist, that may or may not be okay to do. So, you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about that too, because I feel like there's a lot of legal nuance in these things. Yeah, we could totally do that. I could totally show. Who'd be interested in seeing a little bit of the stuff I made with Midjourney? I've shown it before, so I don't want to be too repetitive with that, but we can talk about some of the stuff you can make. And the main thing that I use Midjourney art for is for ads on Facebook. Because, you know, there's like, for example, you want like a dark-haired, grizzled-looking dude in a suit and tie, but the shirt's open or something like that. The shirt's open. There's only so many of those out there, and they've been used in like every ad already. So Midjourney is a great tool to use to get new images for ads. I know. I'm just curious if you want to see it. I will, unless a plethora of people say, "Dear God, no, don't show me art in Midjourney." Otherwise, I'll do it. If you are interested in taking the class and using Midjourney, Midjourney does work via Discord. Midjourney does work via Discord, which is a chat client. So if you're not familiar with Discord, I would actually recommend like just maybe reaching out to your fellow authors who write in your genre and say like, hey, are there any Discord servers, you know, that you think I should maybe join? And that can maybe get your feet wet with Discord a little bit. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to share a window. We're going to share Midjourney. All right. So Jody and Kristen and Melissa are. No one said, "Dear God, no." So there you go. You guys are going to get it. Okay. And let me just change the way this is working. There we go. So now you should be able to see things a little bit bigger. Let me zoom in a bit. You can actually zoom in with Control Plus, just like you can with Chrome, which is kind of a handy feature as well. So hopefully it should be nice and big for everybody. Yeah. So one of the things I think is just sort of worth mentioning in Discord that I think can be confusing is that along the left-hand side, servers and individual people are really hard to tell apart. Like this person at the top here is actually my editor, Jen, and it's a message from Jen. And there's like this thin little bar, and then everything below here is servers. So when you interact with Midjourney, it's a bot in Discord, and the way to get to your direct messages is you click this little icon in the upper left, and then it lists all your direct messages, and one of them is going to be the Midjourney bot. And so that's sort of like the short and sweet version of how you get there. But yeah, I don't blame you, Melissa. I've been using, like, I'm a software engineer through much of my life and been using chat programs forever, and I have had and continue to have issues with Discord. So you are not alone. So recently I had a call with someone. I'm going to scroll up to the beginning of this whole thing, where we wanted a guy, sort of like a grizzled looking dude, wearing a suit jacket and then potentially having with his shirt undone. And it can be, you can get some weird stuff. So if we look at this first one here, you know, like we've got like a kind of a beefcakey dude look in the upper left. Oh, that's awesome, Christy. That's great. The one on the upper right is kind of weird. Like his jacket's all torn and he's got like a sort of like almost like a flared waist thing going on. But the guy in the lower left actually looks pretty good, as is the guy in the lower right, depending on what you're looking for. So, and I also then said, like, trying to make it photorealistic and hyper realistic just to see if I could get something better. And actually, in some regards, I got less photorealistic images, which is rare. Usually you get more photorealistic images. But what I did is I said, like, well, you know, this first one was pretty good. So I just clicked the redo button here and I got this run of images, which had some pretty awesome options in it too. The number 2 guy here and the number 3 guy were both pretty good. Actually, so was the number 4 guy, are all pretty good too. And then I also wanted some variations. So you just click variations and you can see different variants of the same guy. Now, this was a super quick thing I did for a client, but there's a lot of nuance in the way you can do prompts. There's lots of words, and that's one of these we'll get in the class, is how to use certain words to get certain results, and then how you can like safely expand upon what you're trying to do. Sort of like, well, keeping your original idea, but now like maybe we put them on a street corner, you know, or something. And then this is an upscale. You can upscale them and make them larger. Oh, it went black for you guys? Shoot, looks like it's showing something. Is it back now? So it's not back now? You're still black? Okay, good. So apparently if I click on this to like zoom in, then you don't see anything. Is that what it comes down to? Okay. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind. So I wonder if I'll also test that out to see if it does that in Zoom as well, because when I do the class, I'll want to make sure it doesn't happen, obviously. Good little trial run. I use like 4 different programs for streaming, depending on what I'm doing. So I see that. Okay. Yeah, so it went black and now it's back. Right? I'm going to assume it came back. And then so I told it to zoom out. So I had this dude here, and I told it to zoom out, and then it zoomed out and gave me this guy a little bit larger. Now his hands kind of look, it's black and not back. How's about now? Okay. So actually, if I do things in Discord, I have to click back into the Chrome window to get it to update. Well, that's frustrating. Another good thing to know. Definitely won't do this through StreamYard when I actually do this later on. Thank you guys for being so responsive. I really appreciate that. So I won't zoom. You'll just have to like sort of like squint. But yeah, so this is the same guy, and I told it to zoom out, and it gave me 4 different zooms. One of the things that's really cool, and it'll be probably a little bit hard to make out from here. Yeah, right, Jody? I mean, when I do the class, it'll be in Zoom, which I'm pretty sure is fine with all of this, but I'll definitely do a test run to make sure that all the different things I'm going to do are going to work. I'll probably share my whole screen, which will make it work better. But his hands actually look really realistic, but I might be like, you know what? Like, he's standing there like he doesn't know what to do in front of a camera, you know, right? So I might take the same prompt and be like, imagine, this is one of the things that you have to copy and paste your prompts, which is kind of annoying. Imagine muscular man in a suit with shirt undone, and they could kind of ignored the shirt thing. There's ways to get it to actually pay attention to that, but I won't get into that right now. Say with his arms, not harms, arms crossed. Some of those typos can get you some really funny results. All right, so we'll run this and we'll see. All right, I clicked back into StreamYard, so hopefully you'll see it as it updates. Yeah, whenever I go in there and type, it's going to go black, unfortunately. I won't do too much more here. We'll just do this one example. And you can see it's kind of interesting how it slowly draws them in. From black, they sort of fade in bit by bit. And you also get like different looking people each time. It's interesting how it does it. But you could like, you know, give all sorts of other, you could say like, you know, in a 1950s style suit, or you could say like a 19 or something like that, or a young man or an old man, you know. So there we go. We got dude now with his arms crossed. And it is kind of interesting when I say like muscular man in suit, that it sort of just defaults to like a dark-haired, semi-bearded, kind of scruffy looking dude. Like Discord kind of knows what people want, right? Yeah, I think it really is, Jody. It's pretty neat to see that. So that's one of these we'll get into, and we'll get into like how to draw scenes and how to add things, and then we'll get into some fun stuff like how to alter images, and that'll be the first class. And then the second class, we're going to get into how to then actually make book covers out of the things that we see. And see, let me bring one up here. All right. Present, share screen, window this. All right. It's not actually sharing. This is weird how persnickety it's being with sharing lately. Share screen, window. Yeah, wow. Okay. This must be maybe like a a bug in StreamYard or it's a weird thing happening in Chrome. I've not experienced that before. Show more options. Open with Google Chrome. There we go. Let's try this. I have ways. Ha! There you go. I did it. I managed to share an image. So this is AI art that generated this image. And I basically said, like, I wanted an old-timey sci-fi cover. And I gave a bunch of other parameters and stuff like that to get the one that I wanted. And it actually had people down at the bottom of this cover. And it had some other oddities in it and whatnot. Like the stars were just like no good. It actually had like they looked like stickers, like that you would like buy in a sticker pack, like someone had stickered stars on there. So I actually drew the stars in, which was really easy to do. And then I used Photoshop's generative fill to take out the people that were at the bottom of the image, and also like a weird blob that was in one spot, and was able to make this book cover, which is for like a public domain collection of books. In I want to say it was like 10 minutes tops. It was super fast, and I think that could be a really useful thing too. Like if you're trying to make just a basic cover for a novella that you're giving away or something like that, you want to have like something that looks clean and nice and professional, but doesn't cost you a fortune. So the second class, we're going to be getting into how to do stuff like that, and how to build like decent covers. And we're going to talk about them both from the standpoint of making these covers from making them from AI art, or just making them from art that you've purchased. Like it's going to get into both angles. And I'm going to talk a bit about how to like really basic things you can do to make what just looks like a picture instead look like art, because there's a difference. And if you just take a picture and you use it as a book cover, it's not going to look right. Like the colorings are going to be weird. Shadows might be strange. It might look too crisp. There's actually a lot of things you might want to change to make a picture into something that can be used as book cover art. So that's something we'll be talking about a lot, and whether or not the image is something you have to pause a photo, snap with your own camera, or use AI to generate. That stuff, it all matters. So I think this is one that I can show. That, because I've made a couple of actually pretty decent covers with AI art. Oh man, I'm having a total brain freeze on the second one. It should be. I thought I had this thing just saved, but it's in Photoshop. It's only a Photoshop file. Here we are. You guys still there? No one said anything for a little bit, so I'm just making sure. Okay, cool. We're here, Mal, but you got boring, so we're doing other things now. All right. Oops, that's not what I wanted to show. Stop share. There we are. So this is a book cover that is made partially with AI art and partially with art that I bought, and partially with using some Photoshop brushes and stuff like that, and some lens flares and some other cool things. So we'll talk a little bit about some tools and how to do that. And I'm not going to be able to teach people how to become like a really good artist in a 2-hour class, but we are going to talk about like where to start and how to learn and why this image looks good, kind of thing, like what I did and what the techniques are to make an image look good. So the background on this particular image, the nebulas are AI art. And interestingly, by the way, pretty much any picture of a nebula that you're going to find out there, any high-end good one, is going to be from JPL. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or the Hubble Project or something like that. But JPL is where they share most of them, and they're all public domain images. So, sort of those interesting ethnic things, right? Like an image of a nebula from space, chances are anything that the AI was trained on was already public domain. The ship in the background I got from a 3D and 3D object site where you can just buy objects and render them, and then stick them in your art. And then the character is also, she's AI art that I generated using images that I have full copyrighted license to, because I basically paid a photographer to take them, and I had the photographer do the work as work for hire, so I owned the original copyright for all these images. And then what I used is I used Photoshop brushes to draw her hair out, because the AI art screwed up her hair a lot. It's not super good with long flowy hair, and then also cutting out a character with long flowy hair and then putting them on different backgrounds hard. So I used Photoshop brushes to do that. So we'll talk a little bit about how to do some of that stuff. Oh, I remember the other one I was going to show. It's for the omnibus we did for this one series. Let me open up this one. It'll just take a second to pop that open. But yeah, I think it's a really pretty image too. And another cool thing with this it's missing the main title for the book. For some reason, I don't have that. Oh, here it is. Here's the main title for the book. I think I still hadn't quite finished the title for this one. Sorry, it changed images before I finished unchecking everything. Yes, update layers, switch back, the Lupus cloud. But one of the cool things about this is, and this isn't done, but just showing, like, even with just white text, this would need some sort of like shading underneath the text to make it stand out. But even just pure white text, you can actually do some nice things. But this one is another image that is this one's entirely AI art, the whole thing. And so, like, this is the base image, minus, of course, the triangle thing. This is the base image. And so what I did is I used AI art to generate the background. So a 1980s Trans Am sitting on a street in all cyberpunk colored. And then I generated sort of a weird AI looking cyborg character, and I superimposed her image over that. And I generated the woman in the jacket. And then put her on top. So this is 3 separate AI art images, and then I drew the triangle myself and did those effects myself. Yeah, this is Jill's YA series, and then this is the typography that we did. And so that's one of these we'll be talking about in that second class too, is how to do typography like this, how to lay out text and typography, and how you want to space things and image focus and all sorts of cool things like that. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I love this stuff. I'm a super huge nerd for art and typography and whatnot. And I know, like, a lot of people don't see me as they'll think like, oh yeah, Mel's a cover artist. But I mean, I'm not a hand draw kind of person, but insofar as composite cover art, I've done a lot. And I've done a fair bit of art way back in the day, but most of the stuff I've done recently is composite work, where you take a bunch of images and you put them together. And I've probably done about 60 or 70 covers at this point. I've done typography on an additional 70 covers, I would say, for a lot of authors, including myself. So I've got some experience in this realm, and a lot of background in just sort of image composition in general, and then tied in with marketing and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why I think I'll be good. I'm good at this, and why I guess just love talking about it, because I'm a huge nerd. Cool, that's awesome, Beverly. Hopefully you'll join the class and learn some things. And maybe it'll be like a follow-on advanced class for the cover art stuff if there's enough demand. Because there's definitely a lot more than I could fit in a 2-hour class. But I've sort of also learned that 2 hours is about the limit before people's brains really start to melt. So that's an angle there too. But yeah, so for summer marketing though, if you're looking for ways to sort of spruce up your marketing and give yourself a new splash, AI art can be like a really good tool for that you're going to be able to have some fresh images, have some fresh takes, and have stuff that really shines and stands out and helps you with your summer marketing. Because I think that even though summers are a bit of a tumultuous time, we usually go from late June to mid-July with sales taking a bit of a dip, and just people's lives in general just sort of being a little bit all over the place. And then they kind of stabilize into early August, early to late August. But then come late August, there's a lot of like, pardon me, get the hiccups now. A lot of last end of summer, like, yay, we get one more vacation kind of thing. And then things are chaos in September. Oh my God, this is terrible. These are really bad hiccups. That probably sound ridiculous. Yep, yeah, you'll have eternal access to the replays for these after they're up as well, and there'll be Q&A time and stuff like that too. So totally don't want to make it so you have to be there to get the content. You can sign up and just get it afterward. So yeah, so I'll be talking a lot about that, and also be giving a bunch of resources. And then for the first one too, I'm actually going to give like a worksheet with different Midjourney prompts, so you can like have a list of different prompts to get different things, and you can like play around with them, and then a lot of resources on where to go and what to look up and stuff like that. So I think that'll be a pretty handy thing too. So yeah, so I feel like that's all I was going to talk about. Oh, I guess I was going to talk about what other marketing things you can do in the summertime. I think a lot of it is homing in on the good feels of summer. Stuff like looking like, just reference things like beach read, or like one too many barbecues with the family. Escape. With a XYZ kind of book or something like that. Ways to sort of like either like ironically kind of say things like, oh yeah, summer's great, but this part's annoying. Escape with a book, or be like, hey, you're gonna be doing this awesome thing in the summertime. Here's a great book you could take. Like think about ways, like not in a sell way, not like buy my book, but bring a book on this thing that you're doing, or escape with the book. Keeping thoughts on those primer words you can use to capture people, and they can work well for like Labor Day holidays, right? Like I guess one I do a lot at Thanksgiving is like his Uncle Phil, like said one too many annoying things at the table, run off to your happy place with a book or something like that. So different ways of doing that, like ready to escape your family. I know it's kind of a funny thing. Maybe not everybody wants to escape their family, but for the people that it works with, it'll work. But that's the whole thing, is like leverage the happy feelings people are having. Or you could be like, wish you could be outside in the summer heat, but it's too much. Maybe board a little bit better than that, or summer getting too hot. Maybe you have like a Christmas book, do Christmas in July with XYZ book, which really only works in July super well. Or like, escape to the Arctic on this like terrifying Alaska, horror adventure or something. So just some thoughts to think about as you're thinking about your marketing. But I think that one of the things to do too is like when you have these slowdown periods and you see that the sales are slowing down, that's when you want to make sure you try and capitalize. Because a lot of people will be like, oh, it's too hard right now, and they give up. But the people who don't give up, the people that capitalize and experiment and try to figure out ways to continue to make a profit, are the people who have a boom while everybody else is having a bust. So I think that's a really valuable thing to keep in mind. It's like the same thing with the stock market, right? Like people make a ton of money when the stock market is down, because they understand how they're not just giving up. They understand how to make the most of those sorts of things. So some random thoughts there, but I should probably get back to work. I've got a couple calls this afternoon with clients, and I'm also building. I think if you've been to some of my calls or some of these weekly things, you've heard of you've heard that we talk about building some software, and I'm deep in that right now. I'm curious, who has used my read-through calculating spreadsheet before, or is aware of my read-through calculating spreadsheet. Just curious if anybody's used that or is familiar with it or anything. Because I'm cruising along with turning that into software. And I think one of the cool things is that, like, I know a lot of people are terrified of spreadsheets, and trying to fill out a spreadsheet like mine and then interpret what it means can be a little bit daunting for some people. And then also, you have to remember, when did I get that data from and stuff like that. So the system I'm building, you're going to be able to like do your read-through calculations for January, for March, for last year, and then save them and compare them and stuff. And you don't have to fill in that much information at all. Oh, that's awesome, Beverly. Yay. That's so cool. Yeah, it's really quite useful, Kristen. But one of the things I'm making now, you guys get a sneak peek. This will be going into alpha release next month. So you want to stick around to continue to hear about. But this is just like a sneak peek of what it looks like. This is the page where you manage your series and your books. You can add in your series, and then when you go to add in books, you can put in the name of the book, the series it belongs to, the ASIN, what order it's in, and then also your KE and PC and your price. And then there'll be another page that you can get to where you can then say like, hey, I want to do a read-through analysis. And they'll be like, which series do you want to do it for? And you pick that series. I'm in the middle of developing that page right now, so it's kind of broken looking. So that's why I'm not showing it. But you'll say, what series do you want to do? And you'll say this series, and you give it the date range. And you'll just have to plug in your sales, as in like books sold, and your KU reads for that time period, and it will output all of your read-through metrics, and also like highlight if there's any problems and give suggestions about what to do with them and stuff like that. It'll work for wide and KU. If you're wide, you just don't fill in the KU reads, and you'll be fine. So it's going to make that a lot easier. And then the cool thing too, like it says, you can save them, and then I'm building a system where you can then compare your read through. So you can like say like, give me a report. So you put in month by month, or if you want to get month by month, I think is the smallest increment I would recommend doing it in. So you put your read through month by month for say last year, and then it will then chart your read through throughout the year. And then you can also map to price, and be like, I changed my price from $4.99 to 99 cents on book one for this month. And then you can be like, oh crap, and my read through, look at that, it went down in that period. So some cool things you can do with that'll be coming. And I'm really excited. And what I'm going to do with these tools that I'm releasing, there's going to be, I have big plans, and some of my future tools I'm going to be putting out will be subscription based, because they're going to like involve ongoing things that my software is going to have to do, right? But that involve like reaching out to the internet and maintaining, so I have to maintain the software and so on. But some of the things I'm going to be making, like this read-through calculator, it's just going to be $10 and you'll have lifetime access to it. So it's going to be rather than a pay forever model, a lot of the things I'm going to be doing are just going to be a pay once model. So I'm going to make these cool tools, and you just pay once $10 and you'll have access forever. My hope with that is that, maybe everybody can use it, because I think everybody needs to understand what their read-through value is for their series. You can't market without knowing how much money you make off of a product. And then I just want to make it cheap enough that everybody can have it, but still valuable enough that it makes enough money for me to, like, of course, justify having to maintain it and run servers for it and stuff like that. So it's gonna be pretty. And then on top of the read-through calculator, I'm going to build an ROI calculator and a pricing planner, so you can then do things like say, like, what if I changed my book one to 99 cents? And it'd be like, okay, your read-through would likely do this, and therefore your ad ROI would be better or worse. And then you could do a bunch of different experiments, like what would happen if I changed all my books from $3.99 to $5.99. And when you add books, since you're putting in the length of your book and whatnot, the system can like calculate whether or not you might be crossing a threshold for how long your book is, and so on and so forth. So yeah, some pretty exciting things coming down the pike there. I'm super stoked. I wrote software, like I started building websites on the internet in 1995, and I did so websites and web-based applications and software in general. Built a lot of stuff, built mobile apps, and worked in like major hosting and stuff like that. Did a lot of software related stuff all the way up to 2016. So I spent like 20 years doing it, and then got to become a full-time author. And I was kind of burnt out writing software at that point too. So I was kind of like, okay, awesome, yay, I can do this other thing. But if you know my story, I wrote 100 books in 4 years. I have 127 books to my name now, and kind of got a little bit burnt out on that. I'm still writing, and I have books coming out this year, but I've actually managed to rekindle my love of writing software, and I'm like getting up at 5 in the morning so I can spend extra time writing software. So I'm super stoked about it. And I think people are going to really like it. But I have a call coming up in just a little bit, so I should jet so I can do that. But it was great hanging out with you guys and chatting. I hope for those of you who are sweltering a little bit too much, that weather gets a little bit better. And if anybody's cold, that you get a little bit, maybe a little bit of relief from that. And everybody think about getting AC because next year is going to suck. At least that's what the forecast currently says. Who knows what will actually happen. But I will see you guys next week. Following week, there won't be a lunch with Mel because we're on our family vacay, but there will be one next week. And then, that first class is August 11th. Jill said somewhere up above. Now I forget. But that'll be the AI. The first class is the AI art class, and we're going to get into a lot of different angles of AI art. And then the second class will be how to build covers with art that you have, be it AI or not. So they're going to be pretty cool. And if you get both of them, you get a bundle. Like there's a bit of a discount if you sign up for both classes. So I will. Oh, sponsored by the pool sounds like fun. All right. I'll see you guys later. Have a fantastic end of your week and weekend.